Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I'm just going to write a quick message in our chat. We have started. Audio's on. Is anyone not able to hear or see their screens? Let me just go ahead and see if I can. Yeah, perfect. There we go. People are able to hear. That's wonderful. Sounds fine. Excellent. Okay, very good. So let me just give it a few more seconds to see if people are able to follow along. Looks like everyone's able to follow along. Very good. Very good. I'm pretty excited. Yeah, if you can't hear, definitely please refresh. Thank you so much. We've had a really strong turnout. So we've actually, because of COVID, I have stopped running live webinars. It's basically been very difficult for us to run live webinars because it requires a couple people in the same room. And naturally, this is one of the things that was a problem as a result of COVID. So I do apologize that we haven't really been running these. But the good news is we figured out a different way of doing webinars. And I can now officially say that PrepFormula is back. So as of today, the PrepFormula September 2021 CFE program is officially open, and we will be running regular live webinars and a lot more webinars with me personally, Mike Katzman. So, many of you may have heard me on other webinars, but I really look forward to kind of helping all of you go through the whole process, and I'm hoping to answer your questions going forward, okay? So with that in mind, let me know maybe by just kind of writing in the chat where you're currently at in the process. Are you, just going into the CFE? Have you written the CFE before? Are you an internationally trained accountant? Are you a domestic student? Maybe this is also really helpful for other people that are in the same room that potentially are looking for a study partner or other people that are in the same boat as them. Please feel free to write something like, hey, I am so-and-so. I am, say, a domestic student. I went through CPA PEP, writing the September CFE or writing the May CFE, etc. And that would be really helpful for everyone else to sort of understand where people are before we officially get started with this whole discussion. And before we walk through the whole process, okay? So why don't you try to do that? I'll maybe read out the first couple of responses just to see how people are kind of going about doing this. And again, this is really helpful for others because a lot of the time when you are writing an exam like this, you often feel like you're sort of alone. And if you are feeling like you're alone, you're in the right place. And I hope to help you as much as possible throughout this whole process to make you feel like you understand every intricacy, that you understand what this exam is like, how it's structured, and that you feel more comfortable throughout the whole process overall. Okay? So I'm getting my first question. Great. I'm writing the CFE in May. Is this webinar for me? So this webinar is likely for you as well. I will be covering other things that potentially might help you during the May CFE attempt. So there's a whole bunch of other things that I'm going to cover that potentially could help you. But anyway, we're going to kind of walk through a number of different things that are related anyway. So there's also a lot of other people in this room currently that are writing the CFE or internationally trained accountants. A lot of first-time writers. That's fantastic. Some people are writing the May 21 CFE. That's great. So we're really looking forward and kind of excited to get the process started, because I think this is going to be the most useful part of your discussion overall, and it'll be, possible for you to understand, at the end of this webinar, what you're getting yourself into, why you're doing this, etc. Now, let me get started with a quick background. So my name is Mike Katzman. This is the voice that you're hearing. I'll just put a picture to it. I'm the course director at PrepFormula. Previous to this, to my role here, I was a comprehensive marker, basically for CPA Canada. I was an independent consultant working in the National Marking Center. So specifically, my specialty in marking is marking the 5-hour cases. So the 5-hour cases are, what's now known as a day 2. About 5 years ago, and again, I'm probably a little bit older than my picture. About 5 years ago, it used to be called the day 1. Now day 1 is something completely different, and I'm going to cover day 1 in a second. But so I specialize in the 5-hour cases. Okay, generally, I mean, I mark other things too, but that's sort of where the heart is. Okay, so a couple of other things that I just wanted to understand and see where everybody is. I mean, I can see everyone's very excited. Lots of people, attending today. Lots of people kind of. It looks like there's going to be a lot of questions. I just want to explain a couple things about like PrepFormula. Who are we? What do we do? So PrepFormula is a supplementary training program that's personalized for candidates going through CPA PEP. We are essentially a coaching body that assists one-on-one along with live training sessions like this. We've had a lot of success over the past several years, and we've worked with a very large number of candidates. In fact, in the last 5 years, we've been the largest and most trusted CPA prep program in Canada based on site traffic. So we get more website traffic than any other, CPA prep business in Canada, which is great. And a lot of that credit doesn't really go to me per se. It goes to our other instructors, our CPA markers that work within the program, our content developers, etc. Now, in general, many of you might be wondering, but we all have full-time jobs. So PrepFormula is sort of a funny organization because it's a collective of different people that really enjoy the teaching aspect and can't really get enough of it and really enjoy the one-on-one and just really enjoy kind of helping students throughout the process. So I would describe this probably as like 80% hobby, or 80% interest in trying to kind of help others, and really 20% a bunch of other things. Okay. So what's interesting about, PrepFormula and what you're seeing, today is we teach a lot of live webinars. And again, pre-pandemic, we used to teach twice a week. It was really busy. We would have several hundred people in the same room watching. And we hope to return to this. So we have a full-blown, webinar schedule. It's something that I will reveal tonight. It's something that you will have access to. I will upload it to the webinar as a course activity, so you'll have a chance to understand and see it. So again, quick intro, let me explain. So depending on where you're at in the process currently, so some people are saying, hey, I'm going into, Capstone 1, I'm going into Capstone 2, etc. Let's say you're writing the May CFE, or you're writing the September CFE. Just to explain, this year is bizarre for a number of reasons. Of course, you're all familiar with, the grocery store lineups and all the weird stuff that came out of the pandemic. But also, what's really bizarre, in my opinion, and this has never happened before, and I almost feel like I say this every single year. I mean, last year people, were writing the CFE in hotel rooms. That's bizarre. That's weird. But to make it even weirder, this year, the CFE, as you know, is in May alone, is running only in the western part of the country and the Atlantic part of the country. So it's extremely bizarre to me that Ontario and Quebec would cancel while the other provinces, did not. And a lot of this really resulted from a disagreement between CPA Ontario and Quebec versus the other provinces. So what you're seeing really is the politics that are in play in such a large organization. I mean, as you know, CPA Canada has 220,000 members in Canada. It is the largest business body in all of Canada. Okay, there's a lot of CPAs. There's a lot of people involved in this. This is a huge community of people, and that's just what happens when you're dealing with a whole bunch of different bodies that are self-regulating, that can make their own rules. So, what am I getting at? If you look at Capstone 1 and Capstone 2, some of you might decide to write May because you're in Western Canada and or other provinces that allow it. And you're probably wondering, what should I do? How do I structure my time? What do I focus on? What do I do? So really, this webinar is for you. I've been trying to put together some resources and to help you understand a little bit more about what you need to know. Now, if you are in Capstone 1, please understand, and I'm just going to say this very, very kind of bluntly, Capstone 1 is very much a distraction. It's a distraction from the overall process. And later on, I'm going to explain it in an entire class. But basically, Capstone 1 is a distraction from the overall process because it's a group-based project. So it's a group project where you are paired into groups and you are required to tackle a case and prepare a presentation and present. Now, it's obviously going to be a little bit different during COVID, and there's going to be no in-person presentations or anything like that, which is fine. But the point is, this case that you're going to be doing is so complicated, and you're going to really have, a lot more time than the exam. You are going to have 8 weeks to finish the Capstone 1 case. So in my opinion, you should pretend that the case doesn't really exist. I mean, obviously do your work, but my suggestion is to prepare for the real exam, which is the CFE, with some practice cases, with some additional resources. So with that, what are these additional resources? So people always ask me, where do I get cases? How do I practice? Where do I go from here? Well, I'm going to explain. So first and foremost, if you are in the May kind of territory and you are writing May, you're going to get someone who will reach out to you from CPA, and they will offer something called, basically the option for you to purchase the Capstone 2 materials, for example. And this is available for certain groups of people that are not required to take Capstone 2. If this option is available for you, and this is called the NFC option, the not for credit option. If this option is available for you to skip Capstone 2 and take the materials for $250, in my opinion, you should say yes. Okay, first of all, $250 is not a lot of money. And what you get is a tremendous amount of value. You end up getting all the cases from the CPA program along with full solutions. And most importantly, you get some interesting cases that are specifically developed for the process. For example, some of the Capstone 1 cases. So there's going to be these Capstone 1 extension cases. I think they're critical. I think they're very useful. And in my opinion, you should use them in your preparation. So in other words, if you have the option to purchase Capstone 2 materials, please do so, because it's going to really help you end the process out a lot. And if you have to take Capstone 2 in the meanwhile during Capstone 1, let's say you are going through the whole process, we can supply you with a whole bunch of cases. And I'm going to kind of walk through what is an ideal process. But before that, I just want to kind of quickly explain some of our past guarantees. And, many of you have already written an exam. So I can already see that some people are saying, I need to take only day 2 and 3 in May. Do I have access? And I'm now enrolled. So some of you that are watching this have taken the PrepFormula program before. So I just want to reiterate something. We have a pass guarantee, which is basically very clear. That we provide ongoing access to our materials until you pass. Generally speaking, this is supplied through the Prep Plus program. So if you are a student of ours and you've taken the course in another year and you've already taken it before, we can definitely supply you with fresh access, and you'll be able to use the materials, attending the sessions again, and use any of your unexpired credits. Please note that we don't supplement the extra credits, but those are pretty easy for you to get. And furthermore, we will be happy to create a new schedule for you and just to kind of get you set up. So whenever possible, we're happy to help. Now, if you are a student that's writing for the first time, that's great. And that's sort of what is, what I'm here for. Before I kind of dive deeper into this whole presentation, I just want to share my contact details that if you're going through this process, and let's say that I'm on slide like 2, and you already have questions about what I'm going to talk about, and you are already very confused. Oh, what is capstone 1? What is capstone 2? What am I talking about? What happens in my case? Now, folks, there's like over 100 people in this room right now. I can't get to every single person's answer and question. So what I'm going to suggest is if you already have questions, and if you are kind of going through this whole presentation and saying, I have questions, I don't know who to turn to, I just need some help, I just need a quick answer, please try me. Email me, let me know what's up. I'm happy to respond and explain to the best of my ability what I think you should do in the case that you're sort of, debating or wherever you are in the process. So I'm very happy to help. Now, having said that, again, let me go back to the CFE. So this is now going back to the people that have no idea what the CFE is or kind of have an idea but don't really know. I'll just start from the basics and I'll explain what this is, why we're here, what you need to know. And maybe if you have questions, please feel free to let me know. By the way, I should also mention throughout this whole presentation, if you feel like, I don't know, I'm talking too fast, or you have a question about something, or something doesn't really sit right with you, please let me know. Okay? This is why I'm here. This is a live session. I'm very happy to answer questions. So if you have a question and you want to ask it right now, and if it's relevant to what I'm talking about, sure, jot it down. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so perfect. And by the way, I might read it out loud. So if you're worried about that, then you can email me instead. But what I do like is when people kind of email or I guess like type out the question, chances are someone else is possibly thinking about the same thing. So it's very relevant. And in most cases, it's super easy just for me to answer something that another person already has, the same thought about. Anyway, so if you're just starting in this whole process, I want you to understand what the CFE is. It's a 3-day exam, and each of the 3 days is completely different. So it's like writing 3 separate exams that have nothing to really do with one another. Now, the confusing part about this is it's known as one exam, but in reality, this exam has 2 parts. It has day 1, and then it has days 2 and 3. And the confusing part about this is that it's not called like CFE 1 and CFE, 2. It's called CFE. Okay, so you have to pass everything in order for you to become a CPA. Now, day 1, let me explain what day 1 is. It's 4 hours in length and is vaguely based off of the capstone 1 case. So you're scratching your head probably right now and saying, well, what if I don't take capstone 1? How can I write a case about capstone 1 if I don't take capstone 1? And by the way, for those of you that have said I'm an internationally trained accountant, what do I do? You're probably wondering, wait, I'm exempt. A lot of internationally trained accountants are exempt from, remember, you're exempt from capstone 1. So the CFE has a case based on capstone 1. So what the question that I get a lot is, what do I do? I'm exempt from it, but yet I'm required to talk about it. Okay, so capstone 1 itself is a 8-week group project. Okay, the CFE day 1 portion is a vague extension case. So in other words, you have to, and my suggestion here is you have to understand the capstone 1 case, at least by reading it. And then subsequently, there will be a couple of practice cases that will allow you to test your ability to write this extension of the capstone 1 case. Now, later on in the program, what we end up doing is we have a CFE Day 1 marker, and he runs at least one session explaining the various strategies for how to tackle a CFE Day 1 case. Now, my suggestion is before attending a session like this, and again, from now onwards, we will have these webinars twice a week. So I hope that you will attend them. I mean, we need the attendance to keep on running them. So if you will attend them, and if you come out to them, then we will continue to run them. And we will continue to kind of put this on, and we will be happy to provide you with more information about how to write the CFE Day 1 with clear examples so you have an idea. Okay, but that's at a later stage. Day 2 is 5 hours in length, and it's a large case. And what you're required to basically do is achieve depth in one of 4 roles. So there's going to be a common part, which is either in financial accounting, what's known as financial reporting, or management accounting. So it's a common area, so common part of the exam, and then depth in a particular role. Now you pick the role ahead of time. Now I get a lot of questions about what role people should take. They have no idea. They've read stuff online. Their grandmother tells them that they should be doing, the assurance role, or they've talked to their cat and they think finance is great. Listen, there's no right answer for any of this. But what I will tell you is historically, people who generally took assurance or PM did better than people who took finance and tax. And that's proven through data. So statistically speaking, you are better off doing assurance or performance management. Now, later on, again, we're going to talk more about this, and you can contact me. And by the way, for anyone considering, say, switching roles, I'm happy to talk to you about it just to make sure that you're on the right path. But really, you really have to understand and think about what would be easiest for you to wrap your head around. Because the reason why these depth roles exist is CPAs trying to make it as easy as possible for you to do well. So in other words, it's completely up to you. You have to decide what's easy or hard for you. And then based on that, you can make an informed decision and you can kind of go from there. Okay. So really that's sort of where you want to be in this particular case. Okay, cool. And then, day 3 is another type of this exam, or another part of this exam. And it's basically 3 short cases. Okay. Very, very short cases. These particular cases are really interesting because they're anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes in length. Okay. So again, day 1 was 4 hours. Day 2 is 5 hours. So super long, super tiring. Oh my God, I'm tired even listening to this, tiring cases. And then day 3 is 3 short cases. I'm only kidding, by the way. I like this. This is why I do this. I don't get tired of this. And I don't know. Don't ask. It's just people like different things in life. But really, so 3 short cases, and there's no depth here. So they're going to be on all 6 competency areas. By the way, hopefully what competency areas are. Those are the particular subject areas that you're responsible for. So there's 6 areas that you're technically responsible for on the exam. The first area is financial accounting. Second area is management accounting. Third area is tax, then finance, then strategy and governance and assurance. So there's a whole bunch of areas. So the day 3 is a combination of all these areas. So it's like having all these 6 areas all in one area, kind of all in one bucket, basically. So this is sort of what I like about this, because it makes you practice. In my opinion, the day 3 is probably the closest to real life. So it's kind of funny, but really this is the most real life that you will see. So anyway, now let's talk about the CFE levels. Now, first of all, does anyone have any questions so far? Any questions to anything that I have said up until this point? I'll just leave this graphic of, the Mario levels, and I'm going to just see if anyone has any questions. So please let me know if you have any questions. And if you do, great. I'm happy to answer them. If not, that's fine too. And we will continue on to CFE levels. Any questions? I'll just maybe pause here for a second. If you don't have questions, then that's fine too. I just want to make sure that, whoever is tuned in, that you're kind of following along. Is everything also making sense? Like, are things making sense for you? Like, are you getting exactly what you need out of the webinar so far? Just want to get some feedback to see where you're at, how you're feeling. Okay, let's just see where everybody is. If we're writing in September, should we start now? Well, I'm going to talk about this in a second. I'll definitely tell you that in just a quick second here. The answer is going to be yes. So generally speaking, the answer should be yes. You should be studying now. So yeah. And then another question is, do I need to basically get Capstone 2 if I'm already enrolled in PrepFormula and will only do day 2 and 3? You don't have to. Again, I like it. So yeah. And then and then the third question, and then I'll go back to my slide here. How do we get this Capstone 2 package? You have to contact your CPA body. Okay, that's called the NFC. So everyone's asking, how do we get this Capstone 2? Again, not me, CPA body. So I can't provide it to you. I wish I could, but it's sold by the CPA body. Now, keep in mind, it's only available to those that get to skip it. So it's like the ability for you to buy the materials, and I really like it because it's very good stuff. It's a very good supplementary package on top of other things. Okay, so someone's now asking, okay, I wish I had heard your advice about Capstone 1 2 months ago. I know, I hear you. So I'm very sorry about that. But hopefully now you'll have an idea because, again, Capstone 1 is very much a distraction. It's kind of a waste of time. It's just, it is what it is. And again, I'm going to just explain the whole process. So let me walk through it. Some people are now asking me, how do you prepare? I mean, you're jumping the gun because I'm going to discuss that. I just wanted to pause here for 2 seconds and see. So first and foremost, before you learn to prepare, so your question shouldn't be, how do I prepare? To me, it's almost like, imagine we are playing, a card game, and I'm teaching you a new card game that you've never, ever, ever played before with your friends. And I'm trying to talk to you about this card game. The first thing that you would want to do is learn the rules, right? Because you want to beat your friends, you want to be competitive, you would like to do well in this card game. So the same thing kind of happens here. In my opinion, you should not jump in and start studying right away. Like, study all the material, like jump through it, you know what I mean? Practice cases, because you don't really know what you're doing. So my advice is to kind of pay attention to the rules of the game, and I feel like that's going to help you a lot with the overall study process. So the most important thing that I can teach you is the rules of passing. So first of all, on the CFE, you are marked and you are judged on 4 different levels. So these levels are actually really interesting because they are very different than what people think they are. So level 1 is something called an aggregate sufficiency. So basically, it's your average score. And in other words, if we were to rank all the different things that you have to do on the exam, did you, first of all, attempt all the issues, and did you score better or worse than average on each one of them? So the trickiest level, and by the way, about 72 to 75%, depending on the year, of people, of writers who fail the exam. Again, not to be a pessimist, okay, but sorry, this is my job. I have to look at the extreme cases. Of the people who fail, and hopefully you're not going to ever have to be in this, situation, about 3/4 of people who fail on level 1. So in other words, overall, they're lower than other people on average across all the different areas of the exam, if you were to average out all the different areas of the exam. Does that make sense? So one of the tricky things is, how do you do this? How do you even go through this whole process? So really, this is what you kind of have to understand to be the most important part of your process. So I'm getting a lot of these questions. Do you suggest going through technicals first and then going through practications, or do you practice simultaneously? You see, the reason why this is such an important question, and by the way, not to pick on you, Yogesh, but I'm just going to kind of highlight this question because I see this question a lot. A lot of people are often asking me, what do I do? Do I practice, memorizing technical? Do I do case writing? Again, I just told you that 75% of people who fail this exam, fail on level 1. Now, let's read what this is again. Did you talk about sufficiency across all issues? Now, let me tell you the biggest thing about this. Go back here for a second, and then you will understand, Yogesh, in 2 seconds what I mean. So take a look at this. You have 4 hours to do a massive case on day 1. You have 5 hours to do even a bigger case on day 2. And on day 3, you have 4 hours in length total for 3 separate cases, anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes in length. The most difficult thing on this exam, the most difficult thing is time management. I'll pause here. The most difficult thing on this exam is time management. It is not how well you know the material. It is not how well you memorize stuff. So to answer your question bluntly, if I'm telling you that level 1, which is what people fail on, did you identify and speak about a sufficient number of things across all your assessment opportunities? By the way, assessment opportunities are the different parts of the exam. So what this means is, let me just explain level 1 very clearly. If you miss a part of the exam, you will likely fail. If you, on average, do worse on a part of the exam, you will likely fail. If you look at the structure of the exam, there are a lot of things for you to do and very little time for you to do them. So the most important thing, in my opinion, is understanding the strategy to how to write and almost forgetting about the technical. So it's kind of counterintuitive. I know a lot of people are so kind of worked up about memorizing technical. But you see, this is an open book exam. So technical doesn't matter, because you can look up the technical rules using a searchable keyword in the handbook while you're writing. And the CPA body knows this. So when they design the exams, they design them to be very complicated. So you generally, won't be able to memorize every single rule. And I actually discourage memorization because it won't really help you. What you should get really good at, and by the way, there's a lot of these type of webinars that we will be going to, run in the future. But also, if you want to go back in time, what you can see is previous classes that we've ran where we describe how to do case writing, how to write under time constraint, how to write the CFE cases, because they are quite different. They're very different than other types of cases. And you can't just memorize stuff and dump it, because if you try to memorize and dump, you will fail. It's just, that's the reality. Okay. So again, the strategy has to be, you have to get a good understanding of how to write, and then you have to get very good at searching something in the digital handbook. So it's not about memorizing at all. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's more like how fast are you at like Googling something and then writing about it in the exam. I mean, in this case, there's no Google, but there's going to be the handbook. Does that make sense? So the people that generally memorize stuff are left in the, in the dust behind. Okay, cool. So level 2, by the way, is depth. So in addition to level 1, if you pass level 1, then you're judged for level 2, which is depth. So in addition to doing well on an average basis across all the different parts of the exam, you also need depth, which is basically meaning some really strong answers in a specific number of assessment opportunities in either, and you're automatically evaluated, for both. You only need one, by the way, but you're automatically given 2 choices in either financial reporting or management accounting. You don't need both, so that's great. But remember, level 1, which is average, looks at both, so it's kind of confusing. For level 2, you don't need both, but for level 1, you still need both because it's all issues in your average across all. Again, which is kind of weird, right? But hopefully that makes sense. And then level 3 is your role that you've picked also on day 2, and it has to be depth. Level 4 is anything that you haven't touched at a depth level has to be at a breadth level, meaning that you have to at least attempt. So level 1 and level 4 are kind of similar. They're not the same, but they're kind of similar because they sort of force you to do everything on the exam. So again, the first rule that we discussed was that you need to do everything, right? We've discussed that you need to attempt everything. The second rule on the exam is that you kind of have to do a fairly decent job at searching stuff, right? In the handbook, and that's something that we just discussed, right? And then what's interesting is for level 4, you need to at least try to attempt each individual part of the exam for you to succeed. That's a lot of stuff. Like there's so much stuff for you to do all in one, very short period. So now to try to confuse you even more, I'm only kidding, by the way. Now I'm only kidding. There's other types of marks available. So remember, for those of you that were just listening to me explain these levels, by the way, any questions on these levels? So I've just discussed like these levels. Does anyone have any questions about these levels? If yes, like please let me know. I'm happy to help. Now to try to confuse you even more, of these assessment opportunities, these areas of the exam that you are required to attempt, there is a slightly larger weight. And by the way, this is not immediately clear, and you won't really see this until you start kind of really diving deep in this process. But there's a little bit more weight on day 2 than there is on day 3. So in other words, you have to make sure to really outperform the depth responses. They have to be longer, bigger, more involved than your breadth responses. And again, that's kind of just like the reality of writing in depth versus breadth. Okay, so that would be sort of one of the biggest tricks that I can explain to you or teach you. More on this later, by the way. Now, how in the world do you write cases here? So again, we have an entire class or series of classes called RODAC, R-O-D-A-C, and they describe case writing. Please note, this is an entirely case-based exam. There's no multiple choice. It doesn't matter how well you can memorize stuff. You have to be able to organize your answer and, like a robot, provide information from the handbook in a structured way. So the more structured that you are, like for example, if you read, you organize using an outline, you divide into competency area topics, you apply the preferred format. And by the way, so this is kind of like a plan where this is what I suggest for you to do. As you're reading the case, you would break up stuff into pieces. So R being required. This is my first required. I often like to copy and paste the actual wording from the case. So I'll put, And it often starts in the case like the client will tell you, I would like for you to discuss procedures relating to the acquisition of company X. Okay, so I literally take that from the case and I move it into my outline. So like I have a clear, perspective over what I'm doing. That's it. And from here, you can kind of keep track of what you have to do, and hopefully you've got a time for some time allocation in there. So I like to throw in like 15 minutes, 12 minutes, 13, 10, etc. So kind of keeps things organized. And then just to go back here, there's a lot of preferred formats. So each individual type of answer or part of your answer, what you can do is you can use specific standardized formats to answer those areas. And those would be really helpful at kind of bridging the gap and moving everything all into one area. So my suggestion for for what you do here is try to kind of put together just like an overall format for yourself. And we often provide those formats as well in our RODAC classes. So try to use more standardized formatting. Like, in other words, don't just write off the cuff. Like, don't just write the answer. You have to provide additional, the answer in a very particular way, in a structured way. And we do that. And then last but not least, you always want to conclude everything, because the conclusion will ultimately tell the marker or someone like myself that you have to kind of bring everything into like perspective. Okay. So someone's also asking, like, what is the best source to review technical material when debriefing cases? So my suggestion is don't look at the ebook itself. I mean, you could look at the ebook, but it has a lot of spelling mistakes and has a lot of issues. Whenever possible, I actually like to suggest for people to go back into the handbook. So if you are discussing a financial accounting issue, for example, for technical, go back into the handbook. Read the standard, like read the actual rules, because the PrepFormula webinars are fine, but it's my interpretation or it's someone else's interpretation. Same with the ebook. The ebook is someone else's interpretation of the standard. It's not always 100% correct, and you might interpret it differently. So the standards, the actual rules, right, are made for two types of people. They're for the practitioners of the profession practicing public accounting, and they're made for students. So that's who uses these rules, these guides. So my suggestion is go back to the source document. I mean, you're going to be a future accountant. You have to be able to go to source information. It's kind of like saying, let me give you another analogy, and I think you'll kind of get it. Let's say I'm doing an audit, and I approach a client, and I say, I see that you've told me that you have $100 million in your bank account. Can you prove that? Okay. And the client's going to be like, hey, you know what? Sure. Here's a memo from my partner summarizing what kind of assets I have. You're going to say, wait, my partner? I don't want to see a memo from your partner. Okay. I want the bank document showing that you actually have 100 million. Does that make sense? So always go to the source document. Don't look at the, at least not as much. And maybe also at that point, when you go to the source document, you can also compare that with the notes. That's it. I'm getting another question. Ali's asking, what is a decile ranking for level 1? Decile ranking means how close or how far away you are. So it basically tries to show you how close or far you are from passing or failing. That's really what it is, what it always has been. And it's straightforward otherwise. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So level 1 means that you're very close to passing. Level 10 means you're very far from passing. Okay, so perfect. A couple of other things. So let's now talk about study tips. Okay, hopefully you're not falling asleep yet. Hopefully this is kind of starting to make sense. So what I'm going to upload is our new plan. So this is today. Yay, we survived. We've all survived. So here's where we are today. Actually, I just realized that you're seeing some, it's not really filling your screen here perfectly. So I'm going to just quickly adjust to see if we can make it a little bit better. Just bear with me here, folks. Oh, there we go. So much better. Okay. So what you see on your screen now, hopefully, is the schedule for what we're going to be covering in the next little while. I'm going to upload this. If you are a PrepFormula student, great. You will have access to all these materials. If you're not, please sign up. Please register for our program, and you will be attending this live. So the red lines is all the live stuff. So live sessions. By the way, when I mean 8 p.m., it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just for the record. Okay, these are the class schedules, and what you'll see here, you see it says case 22. So my suggestion is for you to do one case per week. I'm going to explain that in a second. And here's the case that I kind of want you to do. All these cases are available from your marker and available within the PrepFormula program. I've also captured some of your important dates, like, for example, some of your Capstone 1 workshops or the Capstone 1 presentation. So, feel free to use this document. By the way, I've also captured your ability to keep track of the type of questions that you are writing, what you're scoring, including data analysis. And by the way, I'll cover the data analysis question in a second. I got one. So and then you can feel free to use this as a way to mark your own, response. So as you go through the process, you will continue to add more and more to the spreadsheet, and hopefully it'll be useful for you. Now, please keep track of these dates. So Thursday, July 8th to July 12th. This will be CFE Live. CFE Live is the most important part of our year. It's like Christmas, but not really. It's basically the ability for you to learn everything there is to know about case writing. It is the most important part of the program. So CFE Live is only available to PrepFormula students, and it'll be something that will be made available for you here. Also, to answer your question about data analysis, there is a new data analysis webinar available July 29th. And will be available here. Okay, so please tune in for that. And to answer your question also directly about how data analysis will be tested, from the design of the curriculum, data analysis will be integrated into questions. So it's not going to be tested as a separate competency, but rather part of other competencies. So it's more like kind of a secondary assessment opportunity, where they're going to integrate a whole bunch of subjects and information, but it won't necessarily be tested as a single, part of the response. Okay, so I hope you understand that, and I hope that kind of makes sense, because that's sort of how things will run. Okay, by the way, for those of you that don't know what DAIS is, it's data analysis. So you are required to now focus on a new competency area. If you don't know what this is, don't panic. It's fine. It's not the end of the world, but there's a new competency area. It's basically data analytics. Okay, very good. And what I had also included here, and I'll make this available as well, is I've recently made a couple of updates, and I have put some pass rates down for previous exam questions from previous CFE years. So I often get people that ask me, what should I study? So what should I focus on? Now, I often like to provide this example so people have an idea of what to study. And let me explain what I mean by this. Okay, let me explain what I mean by all of this. So take a look at what you see here. This is based on day 2, financial reporting. Okay, if we take a look at day 2, take a look at some of the, for example, the areas that people do, that people have to do on the exam. AO1, AO2, AO3, AO4, AO5, etc. Okay, take a look at the subjects that are being tested. revenue recognition, warranty, which is a liability, business combination, equipment, and EPS, right? If we go to another year and compare another year, again, we see revenue. This is a new topic, non-monetary transactions, impairment, which by the way is fixed assets, and a lawsuit, another liability. In at least 2 of the 4, we have repeating issues that have happened in the previous year. If we go to another year, if we check out another year, again, we see revenue recognition. Again, we see warranty, like another liability. Again, we see lawsuits, development costs, which is sort of a new topic, but it's not that difficult. And covenants and borrowing base recalculations and goodwill. So again, at least in half, we see things that have appeared. And again, if I jump to another year, this is yet another year of the CFE. And by the way, this is all split up into tabs. It's all part of the same spreadsheet that I'm going to upload. You will see again revenue recognition, research and development, discontinued operations, aka fixed assets, and inventory, a new topic. Again, more than half of the topics reappear. So what we do in the PrepFormula program is we take topics that have appeared previously on the exam questions and we build entire classes around those topics. And that's kind of what we're going to cover together. And by the way, the program runs from now all the way up until the exam, the September CFE. So here are the dates. Here's what you should be doing. And we're going to kind of tackle this together. Okay. So I will make this available. I will upload this so you have it available for your records. And if you have any questions on it, please do let me know. I'm going to just kind of focus on a couple of different other small things in this, in the rest of our time. We're kind of running out of time here. In general, I've only scheduled this to be approximately 1 hour in length, but I'm glad that we're going a little bit further over because people will likely have more questions. And I also want to leave some time for questions at the end of all this, so people have the ability to ask stuff. Okay. But a couple of small things that I just wanted to mention. So first of all, what is debriefing? On the same note of trying to write cases properly, the most common reason for failing, and specifically in day 1, would be to for people that don't really do the proper debrief. So what's bad is when I see somebody going through the responses and not really paying attention to how they could improve their answers. This is generally pretty bad because what you'll find is you're going to struggle a lot, and it's gonna be fairly tricky for you to really understand how to address and how to fix the issues at hand without diving deeper. So one of the most common reasons for failing, basically not really debriefing. Debriefing is the ability to properly take up the cases, understand the answers, go through the answer guides, get a clear perspective. If you can't do that, you're going to struggle. You're going to really, really struggle in this process. So just, wanted to explain that because I think that's very important. So anyway, and then not all CPA markers are equal to CPA facilitators. Please understand that a marker, which is kind of my background, is different than a CPA facilitator. So in my perspective, a facilitator is someone who provides resources during, say, Capstone 1 or Capstone 2. And it's different people who mark the exam, the actual CFE, than the ones that actually facilitate in the marking center. Or actually, that run your sort of programs for CPA Canada. So my suggestion is whenever you are going through any CPA resource, try to understand, that there is some kind of differences. So let me try to, help you with how I would like for you to write. So my suggestion is from now, try to write cases once a week and attend classes. So at least one class per week. You can skip stuff if you want to, but my suggestion is on Mondays, write a case. On Tuesdays, debrief the case and attend the class. On Wednesday, you reattempt the same case. On Thursday, you debrief the case again. On Thursday night, you attend the class again. Friday to Sunday off. Okay? If you have other conflicts, you can watch the recordings of the classes. You can rearrange stuff, but try to not forget to do one case per week. It would be really helpful. And specifically, the CFE Prep Plus program will provide you with 14 credits for regular case writing, and it will make it available for you. And you'll have all the resources you need to get things marked going forward. So again, just to reiterate, we're the largest program in Canada. I'm happy to help you. Here's what you need to do. My suggestion: one case per week. To answer your question about technical. Technical is something that you can do a very brief review ahead of time, very brief, but then jump back into case writing as soon as possible. So you just need a very light overview, and then the rest you can learn from doing cases, okay? And you will learn, in my opinion, you will learn a lot more and you will absorb a lot more by actually doing the cases than in any other way. So that's what I recommend, okay? And please continue to join me for these webinars, okay? So I'm running another webinar on Thursday. I hope to see you all there, and I really hope to see you all in the program. The other thing that I'm going to ask of you is we just started our live webinars again. We're going to continue doing this. If you are a registered PrepFormula student, great. Please continue to support us by attending, by asking questions. Let me know if there's anything that I could do to help you. If you're not a PrepFormula student and you're currently watching this, please note that we're happy to help you, and we're happy to assist you with your CFE. And I'm very happy to kind of walk you through any of the exam preparation parts, and I would be happy to help you in any way that I can. Please note that some of our prices will finally be increasing April 15th as we get closer and closer to the exam. And what you end up getting is a dedicated mentor, one-on-one sessions, personalized schedule, a case database, a lot of assistance, and of course our pass guarantee. Now there's basically two different options of the course available, either $797 for Prep or $1197 for Prep Plus under the early bird rate. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, folks. Again, thank you all for attending, and hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening. And yes, I'm back, so don't worry. We had a lot of issues because of COVID, as I mentioned earlier, about running live classes and live webinars. So if you found this useful, please let me know, and I'm going to continue, and I'll come back because we figured out a different way of running webinars that doesn't involve other people and keeps everybody safe. So if you found this useful, and if you want me to come back, please let me know. And I'm definitely happy to come back more often, and I'm happy to, be here more going forward. Okay. With that, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. We will see you all later. Okay. All right. Thanks, folks. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.